Hello friends, and here we are getting ready to start day 2 of lesson 19, and we're going to start with our application problem. And I do apologize to our parents that you don't have this written copy. It really is frustrating to me. I have to type it out for our face-to-face students every week, and thank goodness the books that you are going to be coming to pick up as we get ready to start lesson module 4, which you do need to come and pick up a module 4 book because you only have enough to get you through up until we get to the Thanksgiving break. So you will need to come and pick up the book. So speaking of that, how about if I show you what it is that you're going to be coming to get? You're going to need to come to school at your earliest convenience because this will be starting after we come back from the Thanksgiving break. We are lucky that we could afford to purchase the modules already printed for us. So that should make things a lot easier for you at home and hopefully for us here at school as well. This first book is going to be modules 4 and 5. And just to let you know that I am very happy that the application problem is now right in the book, and you will be able to do the same things at home that we are doing at school. And I apologize that those have not turned up for you, but they will be in the book. So we will be starting this book when we come back from the Thanksgiving break. So yeah, we need to get that message out to you people that on Monday, November 30th, we'll be starting the module 4. And so coming to pick up this book for your student, which will have the next 2 modules, woohoo, will be so nice for you. Everything that you're going to need is going to be right there. So I just thought I'd mention that to you since that is a new development that we've had. We just barely announced that to your students in our Friday meeting last week, and hopefully you got that message as well. If not, hopefully you're getting it now. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our application problem for today. So we've got Mr. Palmer's 2nd grade class. Oh yes, you need to use cubes. Be easier for you guys to use cubes once you actually have the paper, won't it? Read, draw, and write. So Mr. Palmer's 2nd grade class, I'm going to be doing the read part. Mr. Palmer's 2nd grade class is collecting cans for recycling. Aiden collects 362 cans, Jaden collects 392 cans, and Isaiah collects 562 cans. How many more cans did Isaiah collect than Adrian? All right, so I need to now use cubes, and I'm going to be circling my numbers, underlining the questions, boxing the keywords, and I'm going to tell you there is some extra information in this problem that you don't need. So we're going to be doing some Xing out today too. So Mr. Palmer's 2nd grade class is collecting cans for recycling. Adrian, I'm going to box Adrian because he's important. There's 3 different kids in this problem. Adrian collected 362 cans. We have Jade, wait a minute. Oh, Jade, who collected 392 cans, and Isaiah, who collected 562 cans. So I've got Aiden, I've got Jade, and I have Isaiah. How many more cans did Isaiah collect than Aiden? All right, so I've underlined my question, but I've got a keyword in my question, keywords in my question that I probably should box. We have that how many more again. That usually means we're going to be comparing 2 numbers and finding out the difference between those 2 numbers. So as I'm thinking about this, I want you to think about Isaiah and Aiden. Those are who the question is about. So that might give you a hint about which piece of information you are not going to use. The question that you're going to be answering is, how many more cans did Isaiah collect than Aiden? Isaiah collected blank more cans than Aiden. I'm going to have you shut the video or pause the video, give this problem a try, and then when you come back, we'll check and see how you did. So pause the video. Are you back? Okay. I'm hoping that you said that Isaiah collected 200 more than Aiden did. So 200 more cans than Aiden did. He collected 200 more than Aiden. If your student did not come up with 200, you probably ought to go back and rethink how you solve this problem. There are lots of ways that this problem could be solved. In fact, I actually figured it out 3 different ways, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my way is the only way that it could be done. There are several ways that it could be done. So let's take a look at the possibilities of how this could be solved. So I started off first by identifying the fact that Isaiah and Aiden were the 2 kids that I needed to look at, and I did cross out Jade because I did not need Jade's information. So when I'm thinking about cubes and I'm thinking about read, draw, and write, the X out information that is unneeded doesn't happen very often, but in this particular one, we are Xing out extra information that is not needed to solve this problem because we really only need the information for Isaiah and for Adrian. So Isaiah had 562 cans and Aiden had 362 cans. So I set this up and I'm thinking, well, you could also looked at it, looking just at the hundreds, because 6 tens and 6 tens and 2 ones and 2 ones, I could look at that and say to myself, well, there is a difference of 200 because 500s take away 300s would give me 200. So that's a possibility, looking at it that way. 500 take away 300 equals 200. Or you could have set that up as an equation, knowing that 582 was Isaiah, or 562 was Isaiah, and 362 was Aiden. I'm going to put a little I up here and a little A up here. Then I subtracted my ones, take away my ones, gave me 0 ones. My tens take away my tens, gave me 0 tens, and 500s take away 300s was 200s. So 2 different ways there. I'm going to put a little circle around this for one way. You should always set up some kind of an equation, but I've got 2 equations. Then I also looked at this thinking about Isaiah, and I put things in my place value chart: 500, 6 tens and 2 ones, 300s, 6 tens and 2 ones, with 562 being greater than 362. The place where I'm seeing a difference is in my hundreds, so I took 500, take away 300, gave me 200. That's another possible way that it could have been done. And you could also have drawn your place value charts where you have Isaiah with his 562 showing with your place value discs compared to 362 place value discs, and the difference would be right here showing your work that there were 200 more. So depending on how you looked at that, and there's probably other ways that you could have done it, but hopefully you can justify how you came up with your answer of 200. All right, so let's go ahead then. We are going to move on to day 2. If you feel that it's necessary to go back and re-watch the video from yesterday with Mrs. Chin, if your student is struggling, going back to re-watch that would be a good idea before you start the problem set. Now, Mrs. Chin did not talk about skip counting. This is new to the lesson today, but we did do some skip counting and some counting back in Module 1. So I am going to work a couple of them with you, and then I'm going to set you off to working the rest of those on your own. I noticed that Mrs. Chin did not talk about this. So let's go ahead and we're going to do the first 2 together just so that you have a good start on getting things going here. So you're going to you're going to be counting by ones, and you're going to start at 367 and go to 375. So I'm going to start at 367, and remember I'm counting by ones: 367, 368, comma, 369, then up to 370, 371, 372, 373, boy, this is going to be tight, 374, I wish I had a little bit more space there, 374, but I've got to go all the way up to 375. So you are skip counting from 367 up to 375, and you are actually not skip counting, but counting by ones. Okay, so now you're going to skip count by tens on this next one. Skipped counting by tens starting at 422. So here we go. We're going to skip count by tens, and we're going to start at 422. Skip counting by tens puts me at 432, 442, 452, 462, 472, 482, and finally ending at 492. Skip counting all the way up to 492. All right, so now you do have to be a little bit careful because on some of these problems, they're having you start and count back. So you're starting at 269 and you're counting to 261. So that would be a count back. And we have a count back here. You're starting at 581 and counting back to 511. So you're going to need to watch those carefully to see if you are counting forward or if you are counting back. Then you are supposed to find out which letter you thought was the most challenging and then give an explanation. And then you have a little word problem that you are doing here where you're going to be skip counting by 100, but you have to do it 7 times. That was a little bit confusing to me, but after I got through it, I started with 217 and I counted 7 times, and I need to know what that last number was. And then you should explain your thinking, but you can explain your thinking by drawing a picture of how you worked things out. So I know that Mrs. Chin didn't talk about this. We did do it in Module 1, but that's been a while, so hopefully this was helpful to you. And then we're coming over to continuing on. We've already done our problem application. Day 2, similar chart to what we had yesterday. And of course, you will need to complete this part. And of course, your exit ticket is the actual exit ticket. And I am going to remind you as you do this exit ticket that you pay attention to what you're going to be counting, 10 more. So I would want to be looking at my tens. 10 more than 239 is. I would circle and use my arrow so that I didn't get lost. They do progressively get more difficult, but I think with if your child will think about the things we've talked about over the last couple of days, this should not be difficult for them to do. So you are now going to pause the video and start your student working, and in just a few minutes I will come back and I will share the answer key to these problems that you're doing today. You pause the video. Okay, are you back? All right, so here's your answer key. Remember that Miss Starr helped you with this one, and I helped you with this one. So you need to go ahead and check and see how your student did. If they were having problems writing in that little tiny space, it's okay if they did it on another piece of paper. So for me, the hardest one was E, and I put counting back by tens seemed harder to me. And down on this one, you had to start at 217, and you were counting up to, or you had to make 7 counts. So that was 217 was my start. So here's my first count, my second count, and I am counting by hundreds. So my hundreds place is changing. 217, 317, 417, 517, 617, 717, 818 until I came up to the 7th time, which put me at 917, which is what you were looking for. So my first count from 217, 1 count, 2 counts, 3 counts, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you came up with 119, you should be giving yourself a big smiley face. Because I know I struggled with that one just a little bit because I couldn't keep track of my counting and I decided to do a rainbow count. You might have done it another way, but that was how I solved it. Okay, now I am coming over to lesson day 2, and here is the answer key for that so you can see how your student is doing. And hopefully they did circle and put an arrow above, doing the circling so you know what you're looking for, and also putting an arrow above the place value especially helps you when you're trying to solve those more difficult ones. And again, like we did yesterday, if you want to do a few more extra practices, if they're struggling just a little bit, please feel free to do so. And, whoa, I shouldn't be doing that. I sometimes do that, my friends. I'm sorry. So, sorry. So then we get to the exit ticket. You need to make sure that you send that to your teacher. So, again, I hope your student remembered to circle and use an arrow so they can keep track of where they're going, especially on these that get to be more difficult. So send that to your teacher. Yep, send it to your teacher. And I'm very pleased with what I am seeing from students whose work I'm seeing. It looks like you are doing a great job. I've had several who are getting full points because they're doing everything that they need to do on their exit tickets. And that certainly makes a big difference on your end of term math grade for the second quarter. You have a great day of learning, and we'll talk to you when we do lesson 20.